welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. Of course, this coming weekend will be recognized as Memorial Day, and rightfully so. Hopefully you will take time to really recognize what this is all about. I'm very honored to have with us today Ryan McDermott. He's the author of Downriver, a memoir of a warrior poet. He's an executive in the aerospace and defense industry and a former senior Pentagon official, a U.S. Army veteran. He served in 2000 to 2006 and leading the platoon into combat with the 3rd Infantry Division during 2003 invasion into Iraq. He's a recipient of a Bronze Star and they earned the Ranger Tab and Combat Infantryman badge as well. There's a picture of the cover of the book, Downriver, and the website is downrivermemoir.com, and there's the picture of that website as well. Ryan, good to see you. How are you, friend?
Harry, thank you for having me on today. I'm doing great.
You bet. Thank you for your service. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're heading into Memorial Day, and this is an amazing time. How do you view this as a veteran with the experience that you have?
Well, it's the experience, but also the relationships that I have. And, you know, the Memorial Day is about those who've gone before and sacrificed for our country, who've fallen. We remember their service. For me, every Memorial Day is a day of pride because of the people I've known and also generations before. There's some folks in my book, Downriver, that I mention. One is Captain Travis Patriquin. There's also Minsu Choi and Landon Giles as well. And these are all men who served for their country and died in combat. And so for me, there's a mix of emotions, but a lot of pride as I head into Memorial Day weekend.
How do you balance that in your heart? I mean, you served and you lost, and yet you protected. I mean, I don't know how you manage your emotions.
Well, in some cases, I think it's important not to manage them and to let them out, and you know, if it's necessary, you know, to cry or whatever emotions. I think there's a spiritual aspect of this. If you have strong faith, I think there's a piece of all those emotions that tie in that sort of bring it together, and that gives a sort of peace of mind. But yeah, I would say that in a big way, there are times where you lose that emotion, especially when, you know, can't do it every year, but I like to go to Arlington Cemetery, and I go to the Iraq War section, and inevitably you run into family members who are by the graves of the fallen, of their soldiers, and they're very proud of their service, and so it's a range of emotions.
As a graduate from West Point, and I see where the president's going to speak there this weekend. How do you view that?
He's the president of the United States. I think it's a great honor for, you know, the graduates of the United States Military Academy to have the president of the United States address them. And you know, he's the commander in chief. So it's a great honor, and you know, I think they usually have a whole host of speakers who lead up to his address, and so it's, you know, as a parent, my son is graduating this weekend. He's in the class of 2025. He's going to be commissioning right afterwards. So, you know, we've been talking to him about he's going to get to shake the president's hand and get the photo opportunity, and so there's an enormous sense of pride in that aspect that, you know, they're graduating, and the president of the United States is going to be the one shaking their hand at the top of the podium.
Congratulations, Dad. I didn't know that. So
yeah,
you went to West Point. Your son's going to West Point. Do you have any idea where he'll be deployed yet?
I don't. So he's going to be commissioned, and he's commissioning as an armor officer, and so he's which is a point of pride because I was infantry, but I took an armored. I had 2 armored tanks and 2 Bradley vehicles when I went to war in 2003, and so I kind of had charge of over tanks. So He'll be a tank platoon leader, and he'll be stationed at Fort Bliss, Texas, with the 1st Armored Division after completing the basic course.
Wow. So in writing Downriver, what led you to come to a point where you wanted to write a book about it?
Well, Perry, Downriver began actually in the aftermath of, so going back to my high school, it started from writings of catharsis of different challenges I've been. So it was meant for me. And so it started in the aftermath. When I was in high school, my parents divorced. We lost our house. It went into foreclosure. Eventually, my mother ended up spending time in a women's shelter for a period of time while I was at West Point. There was a very generous Catholic family that brought me in to their home and showed me love through those final months of my senior year of high school. This is all covered in Downriver, and it really embraced me. But when I got to West Point, I still had a lot to process in terms of what had just happened, losing our home, seeing everything happen. And then throughout my life, I've kind of, through the war, after the war, I got back from Iraq, I began writing for catharsis. The idea of maybe publishing a book, but not really understanding the arc. And then, obviously, another part of the book is about the collapse of Lehman Brothers. And so after that, I wrote about it. And then, so I left that on the table for Downriver. It had many titles over the years, many titles of working. And I got to this realization that it didn't have a really good ending, and that I just need to live out the journey. And that really was my children were really the purpose. And so it came into the end. I realized I needed to wait. I wanted to wait until they were full adults before releasing. And my daughter is 18, so she's graduating high school next year. But I wanted to put this out to honor those who served in the global war on terror. There's a real, I see veterans committing suicide, and I went through some dark times, and that's behind me, and I've grown from the experience. So this is a growth. It's an optimistic. It's a very hopeful message by the ending of the book, and I don't want to spoil everything, but this is a very sort of pro-growth, very optimistic ending, I think. But I wanted to put something out there to show some vulnerability, to show anybody. It doesn't have to be a veteran. Anybody that's going through a dark time, that they're not alone. If they need to seek counseling or therapy, I talk about that in the book. That to destigmatize that it's a very healthy thing to do.
Wow. Would you describe that you dealt with PTSD?
Oh yes, yeah. I for years I sort of was living out all the symptoms. So it starts, without, the Ranger, the sort of infantry mindset is, you can be too tough for that type of vulnerability, and in some regards, that is exactly the type of mentality that can sort of just exacerbate it. And so when I got back from Iraq, it started out with the alertness of like the vehicle, just very hyper vigilant, nightmares. There's some of that in there of showing that part of the experience. And so yeah, I do, but it doesn't mean that I think the point, there's a lot of people who in our country and the world that deal with some sort of form of level of PTSD. There is a way to grow out of it and to sort of view an optimistic side of it.
As you transition through that, the term we hear a lot today is mental health. How would you describe that?
I think mental health, for me, I think mental health comes from a lot. It's like the sort of, the pie chart of everything. It's spiritual health. It's mental, there's your physical health, and you have to maintain all of those things together to maintain a strong mental health. Mental health can be affected by diet. It can be affected by sleep, routine, and all those things. But also, I think a big part of it is relationships and maintaining and growing, sort of growing a community of relationships.
How would you describe your faith through all of that?
My faith, there's a part of that, and I don't know if I may read. Would you mind me reading an excerpt at the end?
No, go ahead.
So, I have to say that. So, I'll get to the excerpt, but when I was brought in by the family, really found a foundation of my faith. One, to see how just the feeling of internally how it made me feel, be a part of a family of faith. And I admit I lost my way, and that's part of this journey. Is it coming back to it? And so there's some poetry in here, but I wanted to read one thing is from my son's afterword, and this is what he says. My father lost, and this. So my son wrote an afterword after reading the whole book, and this book has been sort of done for several years and just waiting for the right time. But he said this, he said, my father lost his way and shame undermined his relationship with God, but he never lost his faith. His story provides an invaluable lesson. What matters is not the path we've taken, but whether we find our way to the river crossing home and still have the courage to venture over when we see it there. And so, and I have to admit, to see my son and my children, all three of them, really great children. So William, Julia, and Brandon. But to really see my son Brandon grow in his faith in a way help really just re-solidify my own and really help me kind of get to that place. Yeah.
That's absolutely beautiful. The essence of the book, what do you want people to take away from the book?
Well, that's a great question. And, I think everyone's going to take a little bit something different, because it's like I don't tell people, the book doesn't tell you what to think. It's like a Rorschach test where you'll look at it, you'll read it, and experience it in your own way. The one thing I hope that people take away from it is reflecting on their own life, potentially, and their own relationships. Maybe there's somebody in your life that is like me, like I was, that could use a sort of an outreach or helping hand, and to see how profound that impact has had. Because there were people that helped me that if not for them, and I try to list them all out in the book, I wouldn't be here today. Brandon wouldn't be graduating from West Point. My son wouldn't be at University of Central Florida. Our family would not be in as good of a shape as it is today. So I think those are things, reflecting on their own life, and then also just thinking how within their own community, how folks can be helpful to others.
Oh, beautiful. The book is called Downriver, Memoir of a Warrior Post, and the website is downrivermemoir.com. There's a picture of the cover of the book, or the book and the website. Can they get it at the website and online?
Well, I think right now the best place is Amazon. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble. Okay. And Bookshop as well. And so the website that I have has links to those various places. So buy it on Amazon. Or it's a good, easy place to get it. I'm trying to drive the sales there.
Ryan, thank you for your openness and transparency. I want to have you back because I'd like to talk to you further about transitioning from military life to civilian life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I understand it's certainly easier said than done, and you add PTSD to that and mental health issues to that and faith challenges to that. It can't be an easy transition.
It can't. I think the big thing is getting over that hump to understand that it is a transition. And I think that that's one of the biggest failures I had coming out early, relatively early. The military got better at doing this, I think, and the VA did. But I think a big challenge folks in the military should have is to recognize there is a transition. Right. There are things that they need to address and just be prepared for it.
Thank you, friend. Downriver is the book. His website is downrivermemoir.com. Check it out. Barnes & Noble online. Ryan McDermott. Thank you, friend. God bless you, and thank you again for your service.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.